You know, one of the biggest lies we fell for that we heard growing up was to get that degree, show up early, work harder than everyone else, and life will open up. It really does sound believable because honestly, it's shown to work before. I mean, our parents and their parents have gotten ahead by following that advice. Following those steps was going to get you basically what you wanted out of life, surely. That is, up until our generation. That playbook is dead, and what if I told you our generation is among the first to deal with it? Costs of everything compound, even the numbers agree. The Federal Reserve shows that while businesses' output keeps rising, real wages, like what you actually take home after inflation, barely moved in 2024 to 2025, just around 0.7%. That basically means you're producing way more, but the earnings you see in your paycheck have stayed almost the same. I'm sure though, everyone watching this didn't need the real numbers to know this is true based off of what we're all experiencing in real time. And if that doesn't paint the picture enough, you want to hear about this. The median age for a first-time homebuyer in the US just hit 40 this year. That's damn near up a full decade in age compared with recent memory. If you're still following the whole hard work equals progress model and still can't buy a home until your 40s, something's clearly broken. This is our current state that we're actively living in right now. But leave it up to the equity bros in the comments though, because they'll surely pop out of nowhere in a video like this to remind you that buying a home right now is definitely the way to go instead of renting for the average Gen Z because of equity, completely disregarding one small little detail. Probably the fact that the median household income is $83,000 in the US, but more on that at another time. I'll definitely make more videos on that specific issue because there's so many angles to approach the housing crisis we're in right now. As someone who built a channel to 300,000 plus subscribers, I'm telling you, the world doesn't pay for effort anymore. It pays for outputs that repeat without you. If your income only exists when you're physically there, then you're capped before you start. This isn't a motivation problem, it's a model problem, and I'm not here to complain about it. I'm going to show you exactly what scales in 2025, the mechanisms normal people like you and I can use, and later in this video, I'll give you one concrete move you can build this week to start using leverage in the background while you sleep. Most people have given this year everything they got and ended up in the same place. Because if you've been grinding and staying flat, you yourself is not broken. It's the model, like I mentioned. You're exactly what I'm talking about. Someone this broken model doesn't benefit. And there's a lot of us out here, way more than you think. The game has certainly changed. I'll walk you through the problems, the solutions, and what you can do about it right now, and my personal plan so you can see it done in public. So stick around for that. Now, I want to be clear. This is not a give up on hard work message either. Not a means to be lazy or avoid work. We still work. We just stop relying on work that dies the second we're not actively involved. There's only two income models now, and those are presence-based, basically you get paid when you show up, and mechanism-based, you get paid when something you built keeps on showing up. Now, I went a little more into depth about this in this video right here. If you haven't already seen it, it explains this a little more. When you look around on social media or even in your day-to-day life interaction with folks, no one's going to say this part out loud, but we've all felt it, so I'm going to say the uncomfortable part out loud. The everyday costs in life compound. You know it, I know it, we're all going through this experience right now. Being priced out of homes more than ever, even renting is up right now. Grocery prices, insurance prices are up. You might not even think about it in this way, but yes, even the price of standing still creeps higher. I'm pretty sure you noticed subscriptions of everything is up. And like I mentioned in one of my previous videos, the same grocery list that I've had for years is literally double, if not triple in price from what it used to be, depending on what I may get. And by the way, yes, I do eat like a robot. I stick with the same foods or same brand items I bought from many years ago. And so you know that even as someone who doesn't have the hugest variety of foods that they buy when they go grocery shopping, I was able to realize this was not a joke. We know that though all of these things are notably increasing, the one thing that isn't is your average person's income. That's why the grind feels like you're steady staying afloat instead of actually progressing. And there's multiple factors that's responsible for the system being the way that it is. Why we're even in this predicament nowadays. It's not just one single reason alone. For one, let's probably address the fact that technology sped up way faster than our paychecks did. So many tasks got automated more than ever before in history, and I'm pretty sure those duties are never coming back, not with how good technology has proven itself to be nowadays. Big name companies like Walmart report multi-billion-dollar revenue growth while their global employee headcount actually dropped by tens of thousands. Companies just simply figured out how to do more with fewer people. While this is the case, costs skyrocketed faster than pay. As I already mentioned, housing, healthcare, education, all of it shot up, but our wages didn't follow along, and you could literally observe this in your daily life. It is really hard to not notice this change. In addition to all of this, the safe job isn't what it used to be. You know it's scary when the data shows that layoffs hit record highs, but meanwhile the profits stayed strong. Companies are cutting people out to protect stock prices, not because they're struggling. Lastly, the reward system in the world has changed now, and will continue to in the future as it's apparent that it rewards outputs that repeat itself over time. It's no longer a situation where your immediate efforts are rewarded. That's the feeling of everyone feeling behind despite working hard. But if you look on the other side of this token is where you start to see examples of people that are winning with this system. Let's use personal training as an example. The winners nowadays, the ones that don't necessarily work as hard as, let's say, your average personal trainer, but gets paid more than them by tenfold probably, simply because they produce something that scales. A perfect example of this would be the guy who sat in front of his camera, recorded himself talking about his experiences as a personal trainer, the wins, the losses, the things you should avoid and whatnot. then posting videos like that online. Over time, those combination of videos can lead to plenty of exposure, putting his personal training business in front of the eyes of tons of people, garnering way more of a potential client base than ever before at scale. Now compare this example right next to the version of him where he's just outputting his knowledge and work but only at his local gym. This is a clear example of what I mean. This is the version of the world we're in now, and it's only getting more like this, and that's where the tension sits. Simply put, if your output doesn't leave behind anything that repeats, you're rebuilding your life from zero every week. That's quiet fatigue, and that's why even the good years feel flat. I'm not here to preach doom. I'm here to explain the rules so you stop blaming yourself by playing by an old book in a new game. Once you switch the motto in your head from more hours to more repetitions without me, everything gets lighter. Not easier, but lighter, because now your work stacks on itself, and that's what's rewarded. Now, let's spell out the specific problems we have here that keep the hardworking people stuck. Number 1, the curve problem. Here's the simplest way to explain what's happening. The world can multiply itself, people can't. Technology grows fast, almost instantly, but humans only grow at a steady, linear pace. When a company adds a new software or automation, for example, their output can jump overnight. But when you work harder, the return is small. You might get a tiny raise or a good review, but you don't suddenly earn double what you were. Any human's effort is not going to scale the way machines do. And every year, that gap between what tech can do and an actual person gets bigger. Now, number 2, the extraction problem. This is something a lot of people feel but don't know how to explain. The modern system we're in is built to take. Take housing for an example. Big investors bought a huge number of homes just to rent them out, which pushed prices even higher. Or let's take jobs. Companies still do mass layoffs during record profit years because it helps their stock price. And on social media platforms, one random algorithm change can wipe out 80% of your reach overnight. Now number 3, the mismatch problem. Today, the people who actually thrive are the ones who adapt quickly, the ones who aren't afraid to learn new tools, worked on their communication skills, and solve problems instead of just following directions. Those are completely different skills from the ones we were taught. A lot of us were raised with the instructions to specialize, to stay in our lane, be patient, and wait our turn. Why? Because that's what worked for our parents' generation, a world that just isn't here anymore, honestly. That mismatch is why so many smart, hardworking people feel lost more than ever these days. Now, number 4, the time problem. This one is pretty easy to understand. Your time, energy, and focus all have a cap. You can work extra hours, take more shifts, and stay late, but eventually you will burn the hell out. Meanwhile, everything around you keeps rising. Bills, rent, pressure, and even expectations. That's why working harder doesn't feel like it does enough anymore. Because it's not that hard work is bad advice in general, it's just not the whole story. Put it to you like this. When things are changing exponentially, you can't expect growth using strategies that only grow linearly. And lastly, number 5, the agency problem. A lot of people think they're choosing their own path, but most of their choices are being shaped for them and they don't even fully realize it. For an example, schools push students towards degrees that don't pay like they used to. Platforms reward whatever's trending, not necessarily what's meaningful. Like, why do you think there's so much brain rot everywhere, or any platform you're scrolling through? And employers train you in skills that benefit them, not skills you can actually carry forward in your life outside of the job most of the time. So people get funneled into roles that keep them replaceable and dependent, and then blame themselves for ending up there. They confuse this with thinking that they should have just worked harder or picked a better major when the whole time the problem wasn't effort. Seeing this is the first step, then learning how to rebuild from it is the next. All of these aren't impossible problems. You won't solve them by pushing harder. You fix them by putting your effort in the right place. So that's what I want to talk about now, the new path, because this is the part that changes everything. And no, it's not the usual internet stuff, not a start a business by Friday or not a quit your job and manifest your dreams fairy tale. That's just noise. What I want to talk about is something way more practical than that, a takeaway for you to think about with these issues that we're dealing with. So you're not stuck in a loop doing more and finding yourself in the same spot, setting things up so you're not tired all the time. And it starts in a place most people would never expect, so I'll run through these in order of steps. Step 1, build margin before you build anything else. Most people want to scale before they even have breathing room to do so, but you can't build clearly if your entire week is packed with tasks that already drain you. Margin is simply time, a schedule that isn't choking you, a brain that isn't fried, room to think. Margin basically gives you the ability to choose instead of react, and you need choice before you need strategy. So that's why this is step 1 before anything. Now step 2, remove the drains. This is the part nobody talks about. Most people are likely to fail not because they don't try hard enough, but because they're weighed down by too much noise, the wrong people, too many responsibilities, bad sleep, and the list goes on. One drain can sabotage 10 productive habits if you're not careful. Removing these drains give you just as much energy as adding skills, but without the burnout. So if you've ever felt more alive on vacation, it's not because of the beach itself. This is why. It's because of the absence of drains. Now step number 3, add the clarity layer. Once your week has space, the margin we talked about basically, then you need clarity. What does clarity mean? Clarity means this: what problem am I actually trying to solve? How do I want my days to feel? What kind of life am I building towards? Being clear about these things funnels your focus and energy into achieving these things. So many people skip this step and jump straight into doing more. But how would that make any sense when what you're working for is not very clear? If you don't know what you're aiming at, you'll create progress you don't actually want. And that's how people wake up in unhappy situations that they didn't anticipate earlier on. Clarity saves you from this. It saves you years. You'll know exactly where you're headed and why. Now, step number 4 is an identity upgrade. Your inner dialogue needs to change. It needs to shift from "I'm just a worker" to "I'm a builder." Keep this inner dialogue with anything you do, even when you're at a job. It's what you need to transcend anywhere you want to go before you actually get there. Because I'll tell you this, no one who has actually viewed themselves as just another worker has ever ended up in a spot they've desired. Only those who view themselves as a builder. No matter where they're at in their life, this needs to be you. It's important because builders make things easier for future them. They move slower but compound faster, and they remove friction as much as possible. You'll find yourself thinking this way when it comes to just about anything in your life when you take on the identity of a builder, and that's why this is so essential. And now lastly, step number 5, introduce tiny mechanisms. This is where the practical stuff shows up gently though. Once you have all 4 of these steps that I named, then you can start adding small pieces of help, like a simple template, a small automation, a short resource you can reuse. These are not systems, they're seeds, tiny things that save you minutes and hours later. Because you're not trying to build a whole company, you're trying to lower the weight of your entire life here. And once those little steps build together, you don't depend on motivation or willpower because your setup helps you. These little systems are there to keep everything intact. So as someone who's involved in this journey, I'm not just giving you this from a distance, I'm actually doing it myself as well and in public. So here's the actual plan I'm running over the next year. Number 1, clean my schedule to create margin. I already did this. I removed everything that I can see that didn't move me forward, even some of the good things, because I know that margin comes first and it's key, and it's why I placed it first. Number 2, build clarity. Now for building clarity, I figured out what I want by mapping it out. So here's some of the things that I personally value. Starting out with meaningful work. Not just mundane, repetitive work that I know won't have an impact on anyone's life. So that's one of the main motivations for starting this YouTube channel. Shout out to all 240 subscribers so far. We're going to reach way more people. Okay, next is location freedom, because I don't want to stay stuck in one spot for the rest of my life. I believe everyone should optimize for this in some way. The world is much too big to stay limited to one spot because of work. Next, a digital business with low overhead. Because yeah, you can make a lot of money, but what fun is that when the expenses are just as expensive? The purpose of this way of life is to live as freely as possible. Hence this channel's name, and we'll stand by that. Lastly, time to think, learn, and build. Because most people sleep on how important this is. It's the pillar for everything. I should have placed this one first, honestly. Now, we're the first generation with access to tools that our parents couldn't even dream of. I mean, from creative software, AI, automation, community, you name it. It quite literally is at the point right now where you don't have to wait for a boss to notice you or wait 4 years for a degree to validate you. With the tools you have in your hand right now, you can make something happen. You're using a strategy that belongs to a world that doesn't exist. I'm telling you, it's best to get ahead right now while we still have ample opportunity to make it happen. While boomers are over here thinking AI is some sort of scam, a tool that any and everybody can use as leverage is not scam, by the way. The same was said about the internet, but look where we're all at right now. So let's shift the way you operate so your life starts bending upwards again. Not overnight, but over time. And once you start to see even the littlest of results, everything gets lighter. So before this closes out, I'm going to address some common pushbacks I'm sure people may have. The first being, I don't know where to start. Start where your week hurts. Messages, questions, and chasing files eat at your time. Automate how people contact you. If you keep explaining the same things, make one short video and that explains it. Post that video where everyone can find it. The next one I may hear is, I'm not technical. You don't need to code from scratch. You need to connect tools with clean instructions. If you can write a checklist, you can wire a basic automation. And yes, you can copy mine when I publish them. Another one I may hear is, I don't have the time. You don't need 3 hours. You need 60 minutes of asset building 5 days in a row. Most people never move because they try to do it all in one weekend. Build one brick day by day. Stop wearing the wall down every Friday. Now, before you sleep tonight, pick one weekly task and find a way that you could automate the step. The form, the page, not the whole process, just a step in the process. That tiny step will buy back more time than any other motivational Instagram reel ever will. Remember, working hard isn't the issue. It never has been. But working hard just to end up in a repeating cycle is. The world pays for outputs that repeat. Clean systems repeat. Build one small system, then another. Then pour a little fuel on what works. That's how normal people win in 2025. Not by louder hustle, but by quieter leverage. So yeah, that's where I'm at with all of this. I'm not preaching, I'm not trying to sell a fake dream or pretend any of this is glamorous. I'm just figuring out how to build a life that doesn't drain me every week, and doing it in a way that actually holds up nowadays, not in some old version of the world that doesn't exist anymore. Now before I head out, I want to hear something real from you. What's one part of your week that eats the most out of your time for no good reason? The thing that slows you down, annoys you, or it just makes your whole week heavier than it needs to be. Drop it in the comments. I actually want to see where everyone's bottlenecks are, whether we're all struggling in the same place or it's different for everyone. And I want to see if it's even automatable. And if you want to follow this shift as I build it in real time, the wins, the losses, and all of the new things we found out in this journey, go ahead and subscribe. Not for the algorithm, but because I'm documenting this transition honestly from the inside as it happens. If you want to be early, if you want to be part of the people learning how to adjust instead of getting dragged by the old system, this is the spot. As always, I appreciate you so much for watching all the way through, and I'll see you in the next one.